Alright everyone, it's time for Vermont Issues episode 123, The Insanity of the Proposed Carbon Tax. See, the groups, they had like an invite-only meeting about this. And what they hammered out as a suggestion to our state government was essentially, hey, we're going to have we're going to raise the gas tax. That goes, hand in hand with the carbon tax. Raise the carbon tax in general and institute it. But don't worry, it's like a zero-sum game because the revenue from this we are going to give back to people who buy electricity but I think it's like they use below the average amount for their home size or something. That's insane. And I'll tell you why. It's just like with any other socialized system or intervened-in system. The fundamental premise may be okay. The problem is that in order to actually, if the government is engaged in trying to divvy up funding for something, it needs to have one or more individuals responsible for overseeing that. Because it ties into every other regulatory system, it's usually a large number of people that have to be involved in order for any government program to function. For instance, the idea of food stamps, anything else, some subsidy for housing, so WIC. The problem with these programs isn't so much, hey, you've taxed another bracket and you're redistributing funds to people who otherwise probably would be on the streets. That's not really the problem. The problem is the efficiency of those programs tends to decline over time. It declines because bureaucracy inevitably grows. It doesn't even matter. It's like with schools in Vermont. What's happening here in the state is that people deemed that having small class sizes, like, the classical sort of northern New England style small union school, it worked well. Our educational rate was higher. One of the reasons is, hey, the teachers got more time to spend with each student because there are fewer students in each class. They then decided to continuously decrease the class size to the point at which it's no longer efficient enough to justify continuing to decrease it. They're still pushing for that now. You can't, because it's no longer going to give you, the declining rate of return is now too steep to justify declining the class size any further. With the proposal that they're making, they're saying, don't worry, ultimately it's not even really a tax, it's just sort of shifting money to people who have used less electricity. They're more environmentally friendly, someone who has a solar array or something. Wouldn't it be easier to just give a small direct subsidy to those people and have some other tax that's already in existence go up by 0.5% instead of instituting a carbon tax, which is going to require the extension of our state regulatory structure, the hiring of new people, in order to work through such a program, institute it, and oversee it? I would think that that means it's less than a zero-sum game. It means at least some efficiency is lost. Any time that something happens at the government level, no matter how many people it requires, efficiency is lost. Now, you can be pragmatic and say, well, this program is much more efficient than others. It's got 99% efficiency instead of 10% efficiency. Okay, that's fine. You can be pragmatic about that. Or you can say, despite the efficiency, we can tie it up a little bit maybe. No, but it's an essential program. You can make that argument too. This is clearly not an essential program. We have never at any other point in our history had such a strange system in place. We seem to be functioning fine. What's the purpose? It would be so much easier if you're trying to reward people who are environmentally friendly to simply bring... didn't they do away with the state solar subsidy? Didn't Shumlin fail to renew that program? Why don't you just bring that back? So that you've got more home solar systems going up. Why don't you make it possible for people to decouple from the grid altogether, instead of, like many states, now making it very difficult for somebody to generate all of their own power? Why don't you make it cheaper for people to put up solar by deferring the regulatory cost associated with actually putting it up, and also lower the cost by having more, greater competition among these solar firms, instead of simply subsidizing one group and saying, okay, you're going to build so much solar in these fields, why don't you have a more competitive system that involves home solar with a deferred regulatory cost? Pretty soon, most of the middle class would be using home solar systems of some sort or another, because they'd be half the price. They would be well within the achievable fiscal range of most middle class families. As of right now, you see home solar primarily on buildings that are upper middle class. It hasn't really gone down. There's some middle class homes that have, you know, small solar arrays, but not that many. There's a couple around this general area, but it's underwhelming. And that's despite the best efforts of, what is it, Solar City and all these groups to come in and put them up as cheaply as possible. Why don't you reduce the cost further? It should be that there are people in the lower middle class that can put up at least a partial array. If what you're aiming for is renewable energy and people to be independent with their production, that would be the way to go. Arguing for years over ridgeline wind or where to put a solar field that you don't need if you have home solar systems is foolish. And this sort of proposed carbon tax is foolish too. It's not going to work. What'll happen is some bureaucrat will pocket most of that money. That's about all. Peace out.